What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Striking Goal, your 49ers podcast on the Blue Wire Network. My name's Rob Lowder. That's Kyle Posey. And we cover the 49ers for all you guys on the other side of the speaker, on the other side of the screen. KP does that for NinersNation.com as well. So head on over there and read their stuff. KP, there is nothing more intelligent than throwing a punch at somebody wearing a helmet.
Fight!
Fight! Ryan Gosling opening the door and letting everybody in.
All of the fights during joint practice, apparently. Some people said there were upwards to 8 fights. If you are a depth player and you know you need all of the reps you can imagine you can get, you need to prove to the coaches, hey, I can beat other players too, not just the same guys that I go against in practice. Why in the world are you throwing punches? Why in the world? So Teron Davenport, who covers the Titans for ESPN, he said one of their tackles basically like cleated a guy. What are you doing, man? How? How does that cross your mind? Like, this is not a street fight. You do not do this. This is not a thing.
Somebody needed to take off a helmet and start swinging it, man. That was the only thing that didn't happen today. Was somebody yielding some sort of weapon, some sort of object on the field as a weapon. We were only short of that, but I don't mind a scuffle. That's inevitable, sure. That's fine. But 5, 6, 7 7 scuffles, now you're just wasting time. Pull yourselves together. Let's actually get better as football players without you guys getting your feelings hurt. And, it's at the same time, having been to so many of these training camp practices, Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw are just such assholes. They're just trolling and they're just trying to that's just part of what they do.
Surely Fred was on his best behavior and didn't do anything to incite any kind of violence.
Of course not. Never jumped up and down or swung his hair around or anything right in somebody's face. Never bumped heads with anybody. But hey, man, that's football and it's fun. But who was it? I think it was Renardo Green. I think it was, or Diamador Lenore. Somebody stepped on somebody else's chest. I don't know who.
I think
I
read that was Lenore, but at the same time, honestly, every secondary member besides Marquise Siegel reportedly got into it today. So
right. I wonder what's wrong with Marquise Siegel. Why didn't you get into it?
Right. Kyle actually penalizes him and not everybody else.
Right. Yeah. I remember that reminds me of a time where and this was all the way back in 6th grade, where my dad challenged the fastest player on the team to suicides. It was basketball. And you had to pick who you thought was going to win. Everybody picked my dad, it was obvious, a fully grown man racing a 6th grader. And after he raced him and beat him, he made all of us do suicides for choosing someone other than their teammate.
Yes, I love that. We did that too a couple years ago when I was coaching high school football. So it was obviously fast guys, but we had a former pro. For a guy who used to play for the Steelers, wide receiver.
Real speed.
Yeah, and they all picked the 16-year-old. Come on, boys. You're not really going to do this, are you? So we had him running goalpost to goalpost. It was beautiful. It was great.
And so now that's like whoever that 49ers secondary member that didn't get in a fight, and you are the one that needs to be running right now, because if everybody else does something, you've got to be doing it. But seemed like a productive day. Seemed like for the most part, it was, just kind of summing everything up and reading everything that's being put out there. It sounds like the 49ers handled themselves how the 49ers should handle themselves in a practice against the Tennessee Titans, who had the third or fourth overall pick.
Yeah, Cardinal Tate, man.
Yeah, so it sounds like the 49ers did pretty well. We'll kind of just bounce around, talk about the things that we saw. First things, I mean, I guess where we got to start, which is not where anybody's going to want to start, but we got a little bit more information on Nick Bosa, who it was first labeled as soreness as he missed a few practices and just wasn't around. And then finally, Kyle Shanahan said that it is tendinitis related to one of his ACL tears. I couldn't get a read on if it is related to the current one or if it's related to something else that happened in high school. I know that Albert Breer piece said something about repairing the tendinitis from an ACL he tore in high school. So I don't know if there's different, you know what I mean? Like when a doctor were to look at his ACL, can you see the tear from high school and the tear from the pros? And because it depends on which leg was torn twice, but it just seems a little complicated, it's going to be complicated for a guy that's torn his ACL twice. But the part that irritates me is, why do the 49ers do the weird, it's soreness, and then come out and say, oh, wait, it's actually tendinitis?
Right.
Why do you think they do that?
I have no idea. And all it does is open up for skepticism, right? When they really don't have to. They don't have to tell anybody anything, right? But the fact that they waver or they waffle, it has us talking, and that's definitely not what they want. Do you think it's anything to worry about? Do you think it's going to matter 3 weeks from now when the 49ers are, on their way to Australia?
Kyle Shanahan said it was normal. I'm assuming there's not really anything about tearing an ACL that really surprises Nick Bosa at this point. He doesn't necessarily need to practice per se. I'm not concerned about the practices he's missing. I would say if you were asking me to label my level of concern, I don't know, a 2 out of 10. Right. It's just not something that seems to, and hey man, Nick Bosa, take all the time you need, bud. It's just not that crazy. I just don't like how the 49ers handle this shit. Dude, if you know it's tendinitis, just say, yeah, he's missing practice with tendinitis. Kind of relates to his ACL tear, but it's normal. Don't even why do the vague soreness thing? And now you've got Christian McCaffrey, who has the vague tightness thing. Is that about to take the same Nick Bosa path into some injury that they just, for some reason, won't talk about?
And Shanahan saying, well, there's 90% of players that it happens to. So no big deal. When, how do you know? How do we know that? Come on.
It just seems like it's so on brand with their inability to just communicate injuries and timelines effectively.
All the time, yeah.
Whoever is advising these comments and just that dude needs to reconsider. Just be upfront from the start, and that way nobody has anything to ponder on. Okay, sure. That's got it. But what was soreness for Nick Bosa is now tendinitis due to related to his ACL tears, and what it currently is tightness for Christian McCaffrey will eventually become what? It's just stop jerking us around, man. Just be upfront, be a good communicator. And we'll be fine. But again, it's training camp. I don't think the 49ers technically owe us anything, but you know what? It's the media, man. They're going to get what they need. It's going to be either from you or from some other source, and then it makes you look even worse. But KP, what's one of the things that you saw during training camp that stands out in the top of your mind? Offense, defense, doesn't matter.
I think the fact that the 49ers are finishing from joint practice, that's what you want to see. So I was digging through a lot of what the Titans reporters were saying, just because, you want to avoid as much bias as possible. And they were making it seem like the 49ers secondary was doing their thing. They were saying, they're going as far as say, when Ronaldo Green was guarding wide receiver A, that they just had no room at all. They were saying that, Upton Stout benefit from an overthrow, but he still caught the ball. and he had an interception. Jair Brown stepped in front of a pass due to pressure, and he had an interception. So those are the kind of things that stuck out. Like Renard Green.
This is coming from a team that like went like in a historic run last season of not intercepting a pass.
Like you would think it was against the rules for how little ball production the 49ers had last year. So for the fact that Renard Green's, in position to make a play, all these guys are in positions to make plays. I think that's pretty telling, and that's what you want to see. That's encouraging. So Jair Brown gets a lot of flack, and rightfully so, right? He's had plays where it's obvious that it makes it difficult to support him. With that said, now he gets to play behind a pass rush where he hasn't had that opportunity in the past couple of seasons. I think that's going to go a long way to see if he's an NFL caliber player, because way back when, as a rookie, early on when Talanoa Fungo's out, he looked like he was the real deal. He looked like somebody you would take in the third round. So maybe we are 2 years removed from that. But the idea of, having Osa Odighizuwa, having an aggressive defense, they're not going to be stagnant up front. If all the reporters are talking about, we've seen Fred Warner blitzing more often. We're seeing more 5-man fronts. So that kind of disguise and just more pressure in general should support safeties, because safeties can be more aggressive now. They can come downhill and they can take chances. So maybe that plays a factor in Jair Brown taking a step forward. But just the secondary overall, you want to hear good things from you. Obviously, you don't want to say, "Oh, this guy got mossed by Colonel Tate," but the fact that they are in these positions is a good sign, I think.
Yeah, you read a few highlights. A couple of Ward's completions came on screens and short throws, and his best opportunities deep down the field couldn't be hauled in by his receivers. He was twice flushed from the pocket by third-round rookie Merlo Height. On another play, Ward forced a throw to Wan'Dale Robinson in tight coverage, allowing safety Jair Brown to step forward and pick off the pass. The play also ended in a brief dust-up involving cornerbacks Green and Upton Stout. During the ensuing delay, Warner walked from the sideline to the east end zone, raising both arms to pump up the crowd. Sounds like the 49ers were just
legitimate psycho, man,
on being horrible hosts. Like, man, these guys,
you're never coming back here.
This is our substation, bro. Get the hell out of here. So I'm actually, on that note, I'm very close to muting the word substation on Twitter. I just don't ever want to hear it again. I don't care, man. I'm done. Some of the memes are hilarious, though. I saw a picture that was photoshopped of the 49ers practicing, and instead of the substation behind him, it was Mordor from Lord of the Rings.
Oh my goodness! I saw that one too. I did.
That's right up my alley, man. I'll like that all day. But so yeah, it sounds like everything was scrappy. The big thing, the concern with me, and it relates to the secondary, is, and we talked about it so many times, that the 49ers needed to add like another dude to that pass rush. Like, what would things have looked like if they would have paid Jadeveon Clowney? You know what I mean? And he's healthy right now. He could be practicing. Titans picked him up, of all people, who already have a absolutely brutal defensive front. And that's kind of where I'm getting with this, is like, can you have too many pass rushers? I understand you're kind of walking the fine line of the salary cap that's going to, the bills that are coming due over the next couple of years. But like, man, I feel like they still need another dude. Maybe Joey Bosa's hanging out saying, a couple more weeks and I'll come over. But even then, that it's just, I feel like they're still a little shorthanded, and they have the money to go. Yeah, like Sogras says, man, get Yannick in here on basically a PTO. Yeah, was he the one? Who was the one? Somebody just posted a workout video recently. I don't know if it was Yannick, but I can't remember. Yeah, I still feel like they need more, man. And the soreness with Nick Bosa, that kind of just emphasizes it. Like, what if he's suffering from the same soreness during the season? It's going to look an awful lot like it did last year if you don't get anybody else in here. But anyways, let's stick on training camp. Reading a lot of good stuff about Deshawn Stribbling, man, moving to the offensive side of the ball, seeing a lot of stuff that I really like. I put out a tweet yesterday talking about, and it's such a minor thing that I know you'll appreciate, but he's running down the field. Looks like he's running sort of a post route, and Brock Purdy hits him what looks like, 30, 40 yards down the field, somewhere around there. And it was one of those trajectories where Stribbling could have easily have kind of like put his hands like this and created a cradle for the ball to hit, or kind of put his hands like this and let it get pinched in between his ball and his chest, but in between his arms and his chest. But Instead, as that ball's coming towards his face mask, he just puts his hands up and bang, and it was one of those catches that gives me confidence in how much confidence he has in his hands. And from the sound of it, this is Nick Wagner. He said Stribbling continues to produce at a high level regardless of who is on the field and who he's against. The size and speed are obvious, but there's a maturity and understanding of the game that his teammates and coaches continue to notice that are helping him adapt quickly. I had Stribbling down for 8 catches today in team periods. I'll have more on Stribbling and where he might fit in for the story coming soon. So that's encouraging, man. That's encouraging. He's a different type of breed. You know what I mean? You don't often have 6'3", 215-pound guys that have 10-inch hands and run a 4.3. You know, and if he can refine the finer parts of his game, the route running and the creating of separation is probably where I would start. That's scary. That's scary, man. I mean, you've been on the Deshawn Stribbling hype chain for a while. What do you think about reading some of that?
No, it's nice to see, right? Just to feel validated, like I'm not crazy. When does the official KP Stribbling victory lap begin?
What was the date of the draft? That's when it began.
Right. Okay. So not sure if he's going to, that would be quite the compliment if he does not play on Thursday, right? Because Kyle Shanahan's like, we already made a decision of who's going to play, who's not. Probably won't see a lot of the starters. Doesn't mean all of them. So if they sit Stribbling out, it's like, okay, they know he's a real deal. And you could tell they feel about that, or they feel that way whenever they speak about him. The fact that he's winning in ways that a lot of wide receivers don't, right? Like down the field. He's winning with the ball in his hand. You just talked about catching the ball, like the very basic things of wide receiver play. He's catching the ball away from his body. He's accelerating through the ball. He's being able to turn 15-yard catches, 18-yard catches into 30, 40, whatever it may be. So if we see that in the preseason, it might not be on Thursday against the Titans, but if we see that over the next couple of games, or maybe the next joint practice that they have against the Chargers, that's when I think I'm really going to start to talk. But I just think the fact that they're confident with using a rookie in the slot says a ton about his ability, because there are so many moving parts when you're playing in the middle, man. You have to have your head on a swivel, and you have to do a lot more than what the playbook asks you. The playbook might call you to do one thing, but as soon as the ball snap, it could be something completely different. So The fact that they're trusting him inside almost to a point where it's full time, and then when it goes to 12 personnel, it's going to be Mike Evans on one side and Stribbling on the other. That's going to go a long way too. So no, it is pretty cool to hear about it and see him just doing the things he's supposed to do in my mind. And the fact that he's on a somewhat accelerated curve also speaks pretty highly, I would say.
Yeah, it's encouraging to read the stuff you're reading about him. And that's opportunity, man. Unfortunately, the 49ers lost Ricky Pearsall, and got to plug somebody's got to step up. Christian Kirk hasn't even really practiced for the 49ers yet, and that leaves Deshawn Stribbling to learn on the job, and it sounds like he's doing pretty well. I know Brock Purdy mentioned his grasp of the playbook was already pretty impressive. And if you can put that behind you, the quicker you can work on developing the finer points of just catching the ball and running the route. And related to Deshawn Stribbling, it sounds like Purdy was just on it. Nick Wagner said once things settled in, though, this is a practice with quarterback Brock Purdy in total control. Not counting him spiking the ball once in 2 minutes, I had him 21 of 27 on the day, no interceptions, and at least 3 for sure touchdowns, with 2 or 3 others that could have gone for one. In one sequence during a move the ball period, Purdy dropped one over in between 3 defenders to rookie Deshawn Stribbling, hitting him in stride for what likely would have gone for a long touchdown. He then fired a strike to tight end Jake Tonjes deep down the middle for another big game as it layered over another defender, fired a short one to Deebo Samuel for another chunk, and then hit DeMarcus Robinson on busted coverage for a touchdown. Even Shanahan had to give Purdy his props after, noting that he had a hell of a day. It's funny that even Shanahan gave him some praise, which is just not something Shanahan likes to do. I mean, at least he really, really subdues it. And one of the names that popped up in there was Deebo Samuel. It sounds like the 49ers are already moving him all over the place. He had carries in the backfield.
Wide back.
I know, man. It's back. It's officially back. I can't joke about it anymore. I don't know, man. What do you think? Let
me ask you this about Purdy.
Yeah.
Because, a lot of fans will spend all summer talking about, he's top 10, he's top whatever. If you truly feel that way, which is a fair, feeling like based on everything he's done as a pro, it's fair to feel that way because he's proven that he should be in the upper echelon of QBs in the NFL.
Right.
Shouldn't the reaction to almost any tidbit news that we get from camp about Purdy, shouldn't you be like, yeah, no, he's supposed to do that, right? Because that's truly how top 5, top 8, whatever you want to say, that's what the reaction for these quarterbacks are. Like, you shouldn't be surprised that he had a good day. One of the Titans reporters said they had Purdy for only 4 incompletions today. And my reaction wasn't like, oh, wow, great day. It's like, yeah, he's supposed to do that.
Right.
He is that good.
He's getting paid a lot of money to do that.
That's what I'm saying. Like, they pay him handsomely to perform like a superstar. So he should perform like a superstar in my mind. When you're seeing like he's layering these throws or he's being aggressive and pushing the ball down the field. It's like, yeah, man, like that's who he is. He's supposed to be that good, and he is that good. Fans might need a little bit of a refresher because he hasn't had the wide receivers around him, and maybe that's going to come this year. But I don't feel like there should be another great day from Brock Purdy. No, like the 49ers are going to go as far as him realistically. So I don't know, man. It just rubs me a little bit the wrong way when it's always like, oh, Purdy did this today, you got to see it. No, man, like he has the keys to the car. Like, this is his team.
He's been doing it.
That's what I'm saying. Like, this should be the norm by now. You shouldn't be surprised. It shouldn't be framed like it's a surprise that Purdy performed well, that Purdy performed above expectation, because that's what they need him to do if they really want to reach their goals.
With me, and when I read stuff like that, I'm trying to dig through my genuine reaction. I still think there's this aura of a large chunk of people in the NFL feeling like reality is eventually going to come crashing down on Brock Purdy. And it doesn't matter that he's done it for a few years. They still think that there's something magical going on that is propping Purdy up, despite the fact that he went out there and played a great brand of football last year without the so-called Avengers. Like,
right.
Everybody loved to fall back on that. Like it was the most comfortable bed they've ever been on. And it isn't like that, man. Like, to me, when you read something good about Brock Purdy and how he performed, even if it is against the Titans defense, not to mention a Robert Saleh defense that Purdy would have been prepared for, it just feels a little bit like he's still doing it, right. It's I don't know that I necessarily feel that way. Obviously you don't, but it just is like I know there's still people out there that just love to, what's the best way to, I'm not some weird Purdy defender either. I just don't feel like he needs that anymore, but it's just there's just this weird smugness out there of people that just still act like Purdy's success is somehow some anomaly that's not supposed to be given the praise it deserves. It's weird. So it's just like, for me, every time he has more and more success, even if it's in a joint practice at a training camp, joint training camp practice, it still feels like it's in the face of somebody out there who just can't figure out that Purdy's actually a good quarterback. And it sounds a little immature. It sounds a little fanish. It sounds a little, but it's just like, hey, I see so many little comments out there that have clearly by people that don't watch enough of him to realize that the work he's put in and how he's changed this offense for the better. And it's just cool to see him doing it. Not to mention maybe it's a little bit of my just and anybody's love for an underdog story. It's not a flash in the pan. He just keeps doing it. What do you think does he still have more to prove, or is an NFL quarterback ever done proving themselves? It kind of seems like you have to do it every down.
Right. So, I mean, realistically, yes, because he has to win the big one, but that's right. How many quarterbacks can you say that about? A ton. So based on what he's done and what he's accomplished in this 49ers offense, I don't think so. I also think, again, like I've been saying this all offseason, we're going to have a much different opinion of Purdy when he gets to play full season with Mike Evans. So
did you see Ted Wynn's comment where it's like, dude, these 49ers receivers look huge because it was Mike Evans and Deshawn Stribbling out there. He's like, this is not the same.
He hasn't had like normal size, or not even normal, like NFL sized wide receivers, man. Like that's going to make a difference. That's going to allow him to be more aggressive. That's going to allow him to like test his accuracy in a sense, because those guys we're talking about, Evans and Stribbling, they are known to do the contested catch, or just to make, the catches are above expectation, I guess I would say. So it'll be interesting to see how people react to Purdy's success, assuming that he has success this season, or if they're going to push back and claim it's Shanahan.
Right, which is, again, like I was saying that a couple episodes ago, like okay, do you think Purdy would play well in the top 10 offenses in the NFL? Like, he's not just exclusive to Kyle Shanahan's. I'm sure plenty of successful NFL coordinators could get the same results out of him, but people just want to act like the only place he could possibly succeed is right here. It's a little weird. Sounds like Demarcus Robinson is kind of earning his keep. I know that when we were talking 53-man roster, and we'll have to have that conversation again, but it sounds like him and Brock Purdy have continued to work on that chemistry. That you saw it in a live game last season in the playoffs. Demarcus Robinson was essentially the 49ers pass catching hero in that game. And it sounds like it's still going. At this point, I don't think, with the uncertainty around Mike Evans, who did return to practice today. He didn't partake in team drills, though, but he did some individual stuff. Now that you've lost Ricky Pearsall and Deshawn Stribbling still working into things, Deebo Samuel sounds like he's getting right back into it. It feels like Demarcus Robinson is a nice, reliable piece that Brock Purdy would be comfortable with, whether he's in the startup or rotational piece. But he caught a couple touchdowns today in the red zone period too, which is, I don't remember who was saying it, but someone was talking about how good Demarcus Robinson has always been in the red zone and at creating that space in a short area. And I think it might have been Larry. I'm
pretty sure I looked this up a little while ago. His red zone numbers are pretty stupid.
Yeah, and it's and now that reading the fact that he caught a couple touchdown passes in the red zone, just kind of gives a little confidence that maybe the 49ers will start using him there. Maybe it's out of necessity, but at the same time, I feel like Robinson has a pretty clear pathway to be a pretty consistent contributor in the offense, because it sounds like the 49ers are going to move Deebo Samuel around all over the place. We don't even know if Deshawn Stribbling is technically going to be a starter or where that's going to be. So, I mean, the 49ers' most consistent contributors might be Mike Evans and Demarcus Robinson. We'll see. I think Deebo is going to have probably a bigger role than Robinson will, but it sounds like he's not going to be an afterthought, and it certainly sounds like he's making the roster.
Purdy said, well, first of all, he said he had a great day today. Purdy said that Demarcus Robinson is one of the best wide receivers that he's ever played with in terms of one-on-one matchups, like winning his one-on-one matchups, which is wild to say, understanding that he used to throw the ball to Brandon Ayuk. So his quote was, I think he was talking about Demarcus Robinson. Yeah, I think he's one of the best wide receivers that I've ever played with in terms of one-on-one matchups and his feel for the game. And they were just talking about how he was talking about how Robinson basically adjusts on the fly, kind of like I talked about with Stribbling, and how he just knows he has a feel. And a guy who's been in the league for 10 years, you would think he would know that. Brock said after watching him this past offseason, he came away thinking, we got to get this guy more opportunities in this offense. My initial reaction was, whenever I hear a Demarcus Robinson stat from training camp, I'm going to default to last year and be like, hey, we just played this game, man.
He was really good last year too.
Is it maybe just a Brock Purdy thing? But after hearing the way Brock talked about him and what he showed off,
do you think that suspension made a difference? I mean,
it definitely took some of the wind off his sails.
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
So the fact that they're willing to do that, or willing to give him more and more opportunities, I wish I had that red zone stat. I'm looking at some of the stats, but it's just from last year where he only had 3 opportunities. So not much of anything. The fact that he's a threat is good, but it's going to be Mike Evans in the red zone.
Right. Well, I mean, but you can also benefit from the idea that the defense thinks it's going to be Mike Evans in the red zone too, and he's probably getting double teamed, and that leaves somebody like Demarcus Robinson and Deebo Samuel getting one-on-ones, or at least there's space created there. So that'll be excited to see. Another one, moving over onto the other side of the ball. Matt Barrows said one of the most prominent 49er defenders on Tuesday, linebacker Larry Worth III. The undrafted rookie out of Arkansas. He was in on at least 2 run stops at the line of scrimmage and was effective rushing the passer. He had a would-be sack on Will Levis midway through the practice. Later, he and fellow rookie Jaden Duggar chased Ward out of bounds for what would have been a sack or no gain. Interesting note right there that Larry Worth III and Jaden Duggar chased Ward out of bounds. That means,
which is what does that tell you? Yes,
that Jaden Duggar and Larry Worth III are getting some first team reps, or because when they rotate, when the offense rotates first team, the defense usually rotates first team as well. They try to match up against each other. At the very least, they're getting reps against quality opponents and succeeding. And Larry Worth was your surprise roster make, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. So again, so I think it was over the weekend when all the assistant coaches spoke. They use the term fever backer, which is basically like a hybrid, a jack, a star-ish. No, not star because that's more of a nickel up and stout, but a guy who can rush the passer, who's going to be able to walk out over the slot if there's a tight end flex, or if they need an athlete to walk over and guard number 2. Or just to set the edge like a true strong side linebacker. So you're kind of a jack of all trades, which is why a lot of teams call it a jack.
Larry Worth III is 6'4", 226 pounds.
Very similar size to Duggar, obviously a little lighter, but a guy who is a safety convert, can run like the wind. And what you really want to see is that chase, right? That run and chase, that ability to not let somebody get around the corner, which is what it sounds like exactly what he was doing today. So the fact that he's playing when Cam Ward is on the field tells me
right.
We might not just be talking about a potential practice squad guy. We might be talking about, and I don't want to say he's going to start or anything, but the fact that he might unseat one of these other linebackers, and in my mind, you want to get faster you want to get more athletic every year. And that was a struggle last year for the 49ers. So if you have the potential to, get a Luke Gifford off the roster. I'm using him as an example because he's final year of his contract. He's like 52 years old. So if you want to, you
freaking jerk.
Like these guys like Duggar and Worth, they're going to make you 10 times faster. So, getting rid of a Gifford, maybe even a Wallow, for example. We know what the 49ers have in Jalen Graham. There's no real reason for him to be on the roster in my mind, knowing that you have versatile guys like Worth, like Duggar. KJ Wright loves him some Duggar, man. Every time it seems like he gets a chance to talk about him. And again, the fact that he's playing. So when they go to their little 5-man fronts, it's not Nick Martin. It sounds like they're rolling with the rookie. So not great for Martin playing early at all this season. Of course, it's August 11th. That can change by the middle of next game. That could change. But the fact that they have seen enough so far from Duggar tells me that he has a chance to get in that 2 deep and really play early on in those 5-man, whatever personnel package you want to call it. But if they're going to be in a base type defense against an offense like the Rams, who are going to trot out 13 personnel and a ton of tight ends, you're probably going to need a guy like Duggar who can turn and run with those tight ends down the field. So I'm pretty fascinated to see what we get from both of those guys in this preseason. And like I said, Shanahan mentioned we don't know who's going to play. Like Duggar is going to have to play, right? Like these young guys for sure on the defensive side of the ball. I don't think there's any doubt that they're going to play early and often.
Yeah, I would say if we're kind of blending this into players to watch in the Thursday's preseason game against the Titans, 2 players like Larry Worth and Jaden Duggar are both guys that, the moment they get on the field, my eyes are going to be glued to them. The 49ers on their website have Larry Worth as a DB, which it sounds like he's playing, way more, like doing a lot more near the line of scrimmage. Obviously, it's 6'4", 226 pounds. The term DB, no singular position other than like defensive end is really going to describe what you're going to be doing on the field or at the type of player that somebody like Larry Worth is, or even Jaden Duggar. And it sounds like the 49ers have kind of settled on Jaden Duggar being, like you said, a pseudo defensive end linebacker role, something along the edge. because he has the athleticism to sort of play that linebacker spot while having the size and the length to hold up at the line of scrimmage. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they use these guys and what they do. I like the fact that it's just something different, like it's different than what the 49ers have been doing over the last 5, 6, 7 years. And I'm interested to see it. Is it going to work? I don't know, man, but it's been a while since the 49ers defense has been some version of dominant. It's been a little bit since DeMeco Ryans was here. So, and if you don't got a DeMeco Ryans in the building, then start trying new stuff. And I like the fact that there's just different things going on. I also like the fact that it sounds like they're letting Raheem Morris do his thing. Like, it doesn't sound like Kyle Shanahan is saying, no, this is the defense we are going to run. Good luck with it. It sounds like they're just letting Raheem Morris run the defense and trot things out there the way he wants to run.
How do you think Steve Wilkes feels about hearing that?
I know, man. He's just sitting there back there like,
I could have done this too.
Well, and I felt bad for Steve Wilkes, man. And hey, dude, they went to the Super Bowl and they look good doing it with him. So it's not like he got, I guess he still did get the short end of the stick. But like remember that one, the end of the first half against the Vikings when Steve Wilkes called an all-out blitz and it ended up being caught by I think Jordan Addison for a touchdown on Charvarius Ward. Man. And I was like, and I needed to go on some apology to her about how that was the wrong call. And I'm looking at there. I remember telling Crocker, I was like, and that play worked, right? Like Charvarius Ward should have intercepted the ball and he just let it get ripped out of his hands, which is what he did to Jordan Addison earlier in the game. And Jordan Addison repaid the favor. And I'm like, man, he's going on some apology tour. The call worked. It shouldn't have been picked. It should have been picked off. Like, how are you going to blame him for that happening? It's just, I don't know.
It was downhill from there for sure.
It was. It's silly. We've got some comments here. My father said Purdy's never gotten enough credit for his pre-snap knowledge and his ability to recognize who's going to be open. I feel like it's most underrated and overlooked quarterback skill. Yeah, he does seem to have a really, really good and saying that, it sounds like Kyle Shanahan is finally getting the Kyle Shanahan on the field that he's always wanted.
Sure,
somebody that looks and thinks like him, and it doesn't hurt that he's insanely accurate. But you don't throw with the type of anticipation that Purdy throws without basically knowing what's going to happen. And I think when we were reading through those quarterback tiers, Mike Sando's quarterback tiers, that's what one of the opposing, it was either defensive coordinator, I can't remember, said about Purdy. Like, he knows what's going to happen, and he's got a good grasp of it. Let's keep going. Big Tone said, how's Prysock looking? Dieter made it sound like he was not doing anything outstanding, but nothing to really disappoint. Haven't heard much of him or Grimes. I haven't heard anything about Grimes either. I heard Chris Biederman of the Sacramento Bee and the Candlestick Chronicles podcast say that Prysock has looked good and he's been making plays. But yeah, we haven't, when it comes to something like the Titans joint practice, you never really saw Prysock mentioned at all. That being said, I mean, with the way how Jack Jones is playing, where would you expect Prysock to be playing? With maybe the third team, somewhere between the second and the third team. It's not like he's going to get a ton of reps. So
it would be very difficult for a day 3 cornerback to play right away for Raheem Morris. That's just not the norm at all. So the fact that they're able to, the fact that, he's might compete for a spot would be, telling. So not too surprising that we're not hearing much from a rookie cornerback at all. We are, however, hearing a lot about Jack Jones, who might sneakily be playing himself into the rotation, man. That's a guy that I'm interested to see on Thursday, because I've watched a good bit of him. And when I've watched him, he is all over the place. One play, he might have a pass breakup. The next play, he might intercept the ball. And the next series, he's probably giving something up over his head. So you have no idea what's going to happen with Jack Jones. Again, as a lover of variance, I admire that, but I'm not calling plays and I need consistency. So if he can find any level of consistency, I don't think it's out or it's a stretch to say that he might not work himself into the rotation at some point. And maybe that comes to Raheem Morris thinking, hey, we need to get up and stout on the field too. Let's work up and stout at safety. And maybe Deommodore Lenoir plays inside, which they've practiced these things. And Jack Jones comes on the outside, knowing Renardo Green's your your other guy on the outside. So there are a lot of different ways that this could happen aside from injury. Just something to think about.
What you just said right there has me just like a little turned on. Like moving Upton Stout, letting him play safety, putting Diamadorla back in the inside where he loves to play. Jack Jones coming in and playing out of the exterior along with Renardo Green. Like, man, that's exciting. That's fun. That's just a lot of good players on the field at once, you know, and
it's what you want, man.
Yeah, between what I like too is somebody like Jack Jones, and it sounds like Nate Hobbs is heating up too. All of those guys are putting heat on Renardo Green, and I feel like just a little bit of pressure on Renardo Green in that starting spot, even if it's technically his spot, and the coaches are very confident that that's his spot. Just that little bit of pressure of good DBs behind him may help Renardo Green really form into that number one DB that I think the 49ers want from him. So
that's all that can come from competition, man. Iron sharpens iron. Like, he's going to be a better player because he was pushed.
Right. It really is. And I thought I heard maybe it was Matt Mayoko, NBC Sports Bay Area, talking about there seemed to be a noticeable difference in Renardo Green's maturity and how he spoke to the media and how he's just kind of handling himself. So maybe there's been a jump there. But I think Sograz is on it here. He says preseason game 1 where we really get to evaluate the punter battle. Yes, I am waiting for this punter battle. You know the 49ers are too, because they've got 28,000 injuries and they still have 2 punters on the roster. So Corliss Wayton, Jack Bowmeister, it is on Thursday. And I cannot freaking wait. I need this. In my life. Big Tone said, I kind of thought if there's any defensive coordinator and that you would let kind of do his thing, it's probably going to be one of your best buddies.
Right. Yeah. Right. They had some conversations over beers like, hey man, like, I'll come. I'm down to coach, but you're not gonna police me the entire time. Yeah.
You aren't telling me what to do, bro.
I ain't that other dude.
Sogras said, need a playmaker. Can there sometimes? Man, y'all need to just take your time typing these comments. Turnovers have been an issue for years now, not just last year. Yeah, but I do know what he's saying, and I do agree that whatever variance that comes with somebody like Jack Jones, you know, you don't want somebody that's going to give up big plays, but you do want somebody that's going to take the ball away. And the 49ers have just not taken the ball away. And I don't even know if Jack Jones sees the field, but the fact that he's consistently making plays is just a good thing, man. And if he's putting pressure on Renardo Green and maybe even pressure on Diamador Lenore, like when we took a closer look at his contract, there's nothing about his status on this team that is untouchable, even though he's arguably the team's top cornerback. At least he's paid like he's their top corner. So, a little bit of pressure on both of them just wouldn't hurt. At the very least, it's nice to know if something goes wrong, you've got a competent corner waiting to step in. You know, that's if you don't want to go any deeper than that. Who are some other names that we wrote down here? Well, this is kind of cheating. It's not one name, but we are looking forward to seeing the entire rookie class. One big one for me is Romello Height. You know, what does Romello Height rushing the passer for the 49ers look like? You know, can he create some consistent success, or is he just consistently swallowed up by a backup offensive tackle or a starting one, whatever you want to see? Now, the hard part about that is if Romello Height is playing, he's not going to be playing with the full complement of defensive linemen that he would normally be playing with. So you don't really, it's hard to get a good gauge on it, but he's going to have plenty of one-on-one matchups. It's the preseason, man. They're not going to be doing a whole bunch of stunts and double teams and stuff like that. He's going to get a lot of one-on-one matchups. Who are some other guys you want to talk about? Who you looking for on Thursday?
So with all the injuries at wide receiver, Junior Bergen is the guy that I'm pretty fascinated to see, because without Jacob Cowing, Junior Bergen sounds like he's going to be the number 1 punt returner. That's what they drafted him to be. I know it's 7th round, but still. So I want to see like how he's winning as a wide receiver, how he's utilized as a wide receiver, where he's lined up. Is it going to be a Z type where he's off the ball? Is it going to be something where he's just like a move around gadget in the slot type of guy? Because again, like with all these injuries, a lot of these guys, like the Wesley Grimes, like the undrafted free agents, even the Malik Turners, they're all going to have a chance to make a name for themselves. But I'm really interested to see if Bergen is anything more, if he becomes like anything more than a returner. If he does, man, I would not be surprised if he sneaks his way onto the roster. But he has to prove that he can do it in a game setting.
I thought somebody saying, I think it was Larry Krueger saying, it wasn't just Larry Krueger, it was somebody else. I think it was Nick Wagner and Guy Haberman too. I can't remember who was saying it. I don't want to wrongly tag anybody, but they're saying he looked much more like a complete and capable receiver this time around. He already had kind of the return chops, but I heard multiple people saying that Junior Bergen just looked more comfortable in his shoes this year. And he's a 7th round pick, but he was still drafted, man. So he's got a chance. I'm looking forward to seeing Nick Martin. I don't know where we're gonna see him. I don't know what position he's gonna play. I don't know if he's gonna be at Will. Yeah, I don't know if he's gonna be at Sam. I don't know what he's gonna be doing, but I'm looking forward to seeing Nick Martin play. Asiaga said Cowing is just not an NFL player. His body won't let him. Hurd could never get on the field either. Yeah, Jacob Cowing is out again with what was it again? Hip strain?
Hip flexor.
Yeah, hip flexor. So you hope that's not a long thing. But again, it's a pattern that repeating himself. Sogras says the undrafted free agent defensive tackles, Eason and Thompson. Lots of good stuff being reported there. Yeah, and then this is, as much as we've talked about, and I hear a lot of people talked about how like unassailable this 53-man roster is. I don't know, man. I see some room for some young guys to get on there, and especially at linebacker and defensive tackle. There's some players that I think could be uprooted here, and for a 49ers roster that's top heavy and has a lot of older players that are still playing well, but older players, it might be cool to take some swing on some younger guys. So it would be
Could not agree more. You have a really good opportunity to kind of uproot your roster and inject some athleticism, which they've tried to do the past couple of seasons, but just based on the sounds of it, the way that some of these young guys are moving, you don't want to turn a blind eye to that.
Unfortunately, we don't really get to see the running backs everybody wants to see. We don't get to see Jordan James. We don't get to see Kalen Black. Jordan James' ribs are still broken via Fred Warner. At least that's the assumption. And then you've got Kalen Black, who still has his adductor injury, his groin injury. Neither of them have practiced, so there's no way they're going to just be halted onto the. Grayson Halton's another name to watch. A defensive tackle that apparently has been embarrassing some people, even some starters in one-on-ones and then during team drills. So that'll be cool. Obviously how things pan out on the offensive line. Is Carver Willis going to be out there? Is Connor Colby? I'm assuming since Connor Colby, as of late has not been on the starting offensive line. It's been Robert Jones. I'm assuming we're going to see Connor Colby take quite a bit of reps. Let me see if we got anybody else on here. I'm looking forward to seeing Curtis Rourke play. I mean, I'm assuming the majority of the quarterback play or all of it is just going to be Curtis Rourke and Adrian Martinez. I don't even know do they even have another quarterback on the roster? Because I'm assuming they're not going to play Mac Jones or Brock Purdy.
Yeah,
what would
I wouldn't
be the point?
I wouldn't imagine we see either of those guys either. So it's probably going to be something like maybe Mac gets a series or so, but realistically, it's going to be Rourke for one half and Adrian Martinez for the second half. And if you've never seen Adrian Martinez play football, this is not going to be anything like the other quarterbacks on the roster.
Big Tone said, with all the injuries and all these opportunities, disappointing that none of these young wide receivers are really standing out because besides Strib, maybe because Bergen, but even a dead body floats to the top. I mean, damn. Just calling everybody that hasn't done something a dead body is one way of doing it. But I don't know, dude. I'm looking forward to seeing Jordan Watkins. He was on that list right there that I was just looking at. And we'll see where they go from here. Jordan Watkins, don't think you really need to see Demarcus Robinson. Jacob Cowing can't be out there. Kaderol Hodge might be out there. Wesley Grimes and Will Pauling. We'll get to see some of them. Junior Bergen. But there's not really a whole lot of names on here that you're not going to get to see. Christian Kirk. He hasn't practiced. So it's going to be a lot of the younger, for lack of a better term, no-name guys at the back of the roster whose name I just listed that are going to be playing. So, I mean, the opportunity's there. I don't even know if the 40, if Christian Kirk never gets back on the field, are the 49ers even going to feel compelled to keep him? It's hard to say. But you've got somebody like Deshawn Stribbling, Deebo Samuel, Mike Evans, Demarcus Robinson. There's 4 right there. It seems like Jordan Watkins has probably played himself to a roster spot again. That's just me assuming right now. So there's 5. That could be it. But there also could be 1 spot up for grabs. So
it's a dangerous assumption. I'm reading that Watkins is catching passes from Adrian Martinez, which tells me he's
that would be
playing with the 3s. That is not what you want.
Right. So yeah, maybe it's not maybe it is too big of an assumption. But again, Christian Kirk, I didn't list him there. He hasn't even practiced yet. So maybe you have to be available. It just depends on how the 49ers feel about him. Anything else, KP? Anything Titans related before we get out of here?
No, man. I think it's good. It'll be nice just to get some eyes on these guys going against a different colored jersey, not in a controlled setting. So I'm fascinated to see how that goes.
Yeah, the 49ers play football on Thursday. And guess what? That means the return of takeaway time. It's about to go down. Preseason takeaway time. We've all got to sharpen up. We've all got to get on our game before the regular season, and that includes preseason. So if you've never been a part of takeaway time, and you maybe just came around since the end of last season, after the game, I will put out a tweet that basically says, put them here, and you reply to that tweet with your takeaways. And I have had hundreds of takeaways before, and I have still hit every single one of them after the game. Now, if it gets like that, I have to be pretty quick. If it's not like that, then obviously we can spend a little bit more time on each of them. But it gets crazy, and this will also be the debut of takeaway time on YouTube. So how we integrate YouTube and YouTube comments into the process, I have no idea. It's going to be chaos. It's going to be nuts, but it's going to be a thing. Sogras says, excited to try this takeaway time. Him saying that is sarcasm because he's been contributing to takeaway time for probably like 3 or 4 years now. So, or maybe I think at least that's what it feels like. So we will have to find some creative way of integrating YouTube obviously into the process. But I mean, think about it. If I've got 50 replies on my tweet and we've got to get through them all in an episode, plus whatever comes through the stream on YouTube, it'll be chaos, man. We'll figure it out, and maybe there will be YouTube only takeaway times. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But I know it's going to be fun, and I know it's going to be entertaining. And as of right now, KP and I may be adding another episode to the weekly roundup, to the weekly lineup. We may go 3 instead of 2. So it's going to get crazy, man. I'm excited for the season. And I don't care if it's preseason football, man. We get to watch some 49ers play on the field on Thursday. So, all right, everybody. I think that's about it. Appreciate y'all for hanging out in the chat and contributing, help steer the conversation. Thank you for being here. Make sure you like the stream. Make sure you are subscribed. You're already in here commenting, and so I don't think there's anything else I can ask of you. And again, if you're listening on the podcast, jump on the YouTube, be a part of that too. Or just stay there. It's fine, man. We appreciate you there as well. It's all gravy as long as you're here to take part. I don't think I'm leaving anything else out. Appreciate you guys, man. As always, for another episode, that's KP. I'm Rob. This is Striking Gold, and we are signing out.